Okay, let's dive into, because we always dive into and nothing else. How to draw more cartoons. I'm gonna go over heads and faces because what good is a cartoon without a fun face, right? Though I guess you could also just cartoon around having little small silly faces. So, if we remember 2 weeks ago, I kind of talked about the basics of cartooning. Is you take your really fundamental pieces and then you just kind of play with their orientations and you squash and you stretch them. Before I dive into faces, I want to just kind of give you a refresher on that idea, a little bit of difference in the kind of, let's say it's called the orientation of pieces behind what makes and doesn't make a cartoon. You'll see what I mean in a second. That probably sounds incredibly weird, but you'll see. So let's say I have here's a circle, here's an oval, one stick, two sticks. Okay. What does this look like to you guys? Nothing, right? You're like, I don't know, some avant-garde piece out hanging in the MoMA and it's worth like $5 million. Potentially, art has a lot of room for that. But if I take these pieces and reorient them ever so slightly, I like put this circle up top here and then do an oval. And then say put, this one over here, and I put this one here, and I put this one here, and I put this one here. All of a sudden, we have what equals human life, right? Even though over here it makes no sense, when I orient these pieces properly, they look like something. See how these fun lines make sense? This idea is the basis of cartooning. Right? How can I orient all these random... This is actually the basis of art, but cartooning really relies on this kind of framework of how do I orient the pieces, because a lot of cartooning is about exaggeration and caricature. So it's really important you have these kinds of, let's call them matrices, or matrices, I think it's the plural, whatever, for how to orient your pieces, right? Because for instance, if I come in here and like say, get rid of this, is that still like a person? How about now? Is that still a person? What if I do this? See what I mean? So you're kind of like finding where is the limit between where it doesn't become the object I'm trying to create and when it does get that across to people. Like for instance, if I decide to get rid of this leg, well, I don't know, we give him a peg leg, right? And over here maybe he has a regular foot. Over here he has a hand, right? All of a sudden, this one down here reads as a peg leg because I've given more context to the rest of the body. And this kind of logic of pieces extends to every single part of the body, right? There are a selection of objects to the head, right? The whole body, right? Feet, hands. Make sense? Everyone with me so far? Is that tracking? Like, there's a bunch of puzzles with little pieces that if you orient them the right way, you get an object. Making sense? Hopefully they're pretty straightforward. Like a hand has 4 fingers, a thumb, and a palm, right? Because again, like, if we take this idea, we follow it. I'm going to be doing faces today, but I'm going to just give you a little hint here. Like if I go over here and I say do, a square, these 4 lines, we get what equals a hand, right? And all I did, there's like 5 lines, 2, 3, 4, 5, a square, another line for a forearm, right? It gives us a hand. If I do like a, circle, oval, and 4 limbs, we get a body. If I do a rectangle with 5 little ones, one here, that's a foot, right? That's the basis of cartooning. What is the head? The head is comprised of, at its bare minimum, a base shape, and then some format for. Now these can change shape. There's going to be eyes, which is your most important. These are by importance. Okay, I'll show you on the head as we go. Okay, number 1 is eyes. If I go over to this square, this circle. Told you I might be spacey. I do this. We have a character. See that? Literally all I have is I have a circle, a dot, and a dot. Because I put them in the right orientation, we get a face. Like if I take a circle, I just put one here and one over here, he actually looks like he's really, really unhealthy because we have this one for context, right? Because we see this one here, and so because this one's next to it, we use this one as a reference and be like, oh, this guy is not in a good place. So if I were to say turn this off and, you know, draw a circle and like put a line here and a one here, we don't really have it, right? If I bring those in, I put those two little dots there, we got a face, right? Okay. Next, after the eyes, I would say these are shared importance, is either the eyebrows or a mouth. These ones are equally important. We'll call them two, because you can do either or for these, right? I take my little dude, a dude ski. Here, I'll do it along with you. And I want two of those. Right? If I give him eyebrows, that works just as well as if I were to give him a mouth. Right? You can do either or you can do both. Right? I can do both of these. Right? Either or. But you can see what you do, you know, let's call this one 2A and 2B. Both of these add to the face, right? But if I were to come in and remove the eyes, any one of these, right? If I do this, suddenly it doesn't really work very well, right? So you can see how the eyes are the most important part of making a face. They're like the anchor that keeps the ship from drifting away. Because if, you know, but you can kind of do like, you know, if I draw a head and I put a nose on it, okay, we kind of see that, but it doesn't really give us something to connect to. That's because eyes are a very emotional anchor. And when you're making characters, you really want to think about connection, right? Because that's what draws people in and is a way to connect with the character. How can I feel its emotions? How can I follow its story? How can I relate to it? Because ultimately we're all very selfish and we need to see some piece of ourselves in something else so we can connect with it. That's just a long-winded way of saying eyes are the most important when drawing cartoons. And after that, you get into what I would call the, let's call them the tertiaries. Maybe not, but these are things that are not critical to the face, but just add to the face. They're optional, right? I would say that your eyes, eyebrows, and mouth are mandatory for 99% of your characters, unless you're doing some kind of play on like they don't have a mouth, right? But this here, these, you know, eyes, eyebrows, mouth will just deal with the vast majority of your characters, right? So, and actually, let me before I dive in here. Yes, let me actually, I'll show you. So, oh, and of course, I just spaced. I told you I might space. 0 ahead. Without a head, the whole thing has nothing to work with. Except, not necessarily. Like, if I just have this and I go, I smile, that kind of works. But then this becomes like his head, right? So you don't actually necessarily need the head shape. You really just need the eyes and the mouth, but that's advanced cartooning, okay? We won't worry about that just yet. For now, these are your most important ones. And I'm going to show you some examples before I show you the tertiaries. If I take a head shape like, I don't know, this is a random shape. I'm just making this up. And let's do, I don't know. Make it like a cylinder. It's a cylinder, right? Super random shapes. Make it like a little hourglass. And watch. If I take these basic principles, I do this. It looks like a face now, doesn't it? It's like a little sad dude. Right? Super basic. Over here, maybe this guy is this angry can. Angry, right? Or he's evil. See that? Even though if you look at this objectively, this makes no bloody sense, right? But it reads to you as some kind of face, as some kind of living, breathing, emotional character. Do you see where I'm going with this? Hopefully it makes sense. You get like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of neat. You can just like turn anything into a character, right? This is like the basis of how like Disney's bread and butter for like how they make a mug into a character. Like, how am I connecting with this clock in Beauty and the Beast? This stuff, right? Understanding the most important pieces of the face and how to communicate emotion, and then you can turn anything into a character that someone can connect with, whether it be a mug, a wall, a cloud, anything, right? So now on to decorating our faces. That we have this. Let's turn lower, right? Let's do another one, right? So turn you off. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna do this. I'm going to make it smaller. Scoot this over as we go on to how do you decorate your face? Okay. This is number 3. Do a different color too. 3. I'm going to call your decorations. These include things like the nose, ears. I will call eyebrow shape. And then you can do things like, earrings, facial hair, right? Call it hair's a good one, and then we'll just call it accessories, right? And now these, as you can imagine, are endless. Absolutely endless, right? Like if I take my buddy here, let's do we'll grab this little sad one. I like the little sad one, right? Here. Make a few of these, and let's play with some pieces. Right? If I say, I don't know, let's give them, give one of these a nose. Right? Here, he's got a big nose. Right? Let's give him little ears. Hair. Oh, let's do a hair, right? This little hair thing, right? And we're just kind of decorating. He's got a little butt chin. See that? We made a character. What do we got here? Nose, ears, eyebrow shape. I like his eyebrow shape. Give him some hair, some accessories. I don't know. That butt chin is my accessory. Next one. Let's try vampires. Right? Okay, he's got vampires. Nose. Let's do a little droopy nose. Let's make him mad. Or give him a unibrow, right? I don't know. I'm making this up. And a bean mouth. Right? See, you can just like play with it. And there's like no real hard rules here. As far as learning these shapes, these just come with practice, building your visual library, right? You watch Adventure Time, you watch the Flintstones, you watch Teen Titans. You just take notes on how to just sort of draw little cartoony styles of hairs or ears or noses or whatever. Because I think we covered this last week, but like a nose can be like, this. It can be like this. You can do all kinds of things with noses. This goes back to that idea of as long as you understand the central elements and put them in the right places, it will read as that object, right? Everybody following so far? Making sense? I'll keep going. Here, we'll give them these noses. Let's give them one of these noses. Big Fred Flintstone noses. And let's give this one the fat one. Give him some big eyes. Big Buddha ears. I don't know. Buzz cut. Let's give this one a big, beautiful bit of boy band hair. Sunglasses. Mustache. A hat. I don't know. Here's a hat. I don't like the hat. Any questions? See if I can bald. No questions? Everyone get it so far then? Okay, check. Okay, cool. Okay, then I will move on. I didn't miss anything here. Yes. Eyes, eyebrows, mouth. Those are the pieces. When you're designing your own heads and these pieces, let's give you some stuff to work with here. When you're playing with this, there are some important. We have this the midline, right? And then we call this, I don't know, the other midline. We'll call it the eyeline. When you're designing your own heads, these two lines help you figure out what you're doing. You can place your objects in the right place. Right? So if you like draw your head, or you want to do like a, I don't know, anime head, for instance, right? This will help you place all your objects. This will also help you place your objects if you want to do like, you know, something that's completely not anime, right? So, for instance, if I take this, and we'll do a second one. This first one will do anime, which traditionally has like, you know, this sort of shape like that down the midline. Right? Let's do the second one. We'll give them like a really, really big, a huge one. Just to show you that there's no limits here, right? Kind of ridiculous. But you'll see here that between these two lines, that in both cases I have my chin, the butt of my chin ends with this blue line, right? And for instance, my sides of my chin both start and end at these pink lines, right? And then why that's important is in the same way that if you know, take your head shape and add your eyes and your mouth to it, you get a face. There's a sort of set of fundamental geometric cues to the human head, and you can probably start to see now that this rabbit hole goes on forever because there's no real limit to your, I don't know, like I guess I want to call it like a geometric cue, because for instance, well, this is the really basic stuff. There are elements you can use for, say, an eye, right? And I'm getting a little bit of a tangent here, but this is an important tangent. If I draw an eye, like a really realistic eye, right? There's like the top eyelid. There's the bottom eyelid. There's this little nubby, meaty thing here that I don't know what the hell it's called. I think it's lacrimal gland. Lacrimal gland. There's eyelashes, right? There's the epicanthic folds. There's this little piece of area here. There's the eyebrow. You see how there's like, the body has like infinite complexity, right? With the eye, there's the iris, there's the pupil, there's that little piece of shine that tends to happen here, right? And you can just add like, you can go forever and forever and forever into these details. Whereas I can do this, or I can just do this, right? and it still looks like an eye. See what I'm talking about? How there's like kind of this endless amount of complexity to your pieces. It's just up to you to decide. Like I can't fit all of this into one lecture because every single part of the body can do this. I can do this with your fingers, with your even your like fingernails have insane complexity if you want to break it down. But I will advise you, do not get lost in detail before you understand this, right? So this is a bit of a tangent, but it's an important tangent because we're going to come back to this, where these geometric foundations help anchor and tie together everything else you do. So, talking about chins, eyes, right? Done. So, as we're placing objects on this face, why did I make it do that? Here we go. Right, so your chin will meet with your blue line. Your eyes, for instance, should be around this pink line, right? This is one of those landmarks, like your eyes go along this pink line in these kinds of areas, right? So same thing over here, you know, and I'm gonna make this one extra messed up just to show you that there's like really no limits to how stupid this can get as long as you follow the general rules, right? So let's say this one should probably about put it there. There's no rule. There's no rules. There's no rules, right? So here, let's make this one. We'll do dumb shapes, right? I'm like literally making this up as I go. There is no hard and fast plan here. This is just I'm telling you that as long as you put things in the right places, it will read, and then it just comes into how much you want to play with it. What do you want to create? What do you want to do? You see here, this looks like a face, right? If I put in a mouth, let's do another bean mouth, because who doesn't love cal arts? That reads, right? Same thing everywhere. Let's give him a, I don't know, huge smile, right? Actually, I should be down. See it? And you can just keep going. Give him a big dumb nose, cheekbones, right? So you just decorate the basics. Butt, chin, double, and little tiny ears. Little itty bitty ears. Little teeny tiny ones. Oh, with the, yeah, they're like boop boop. A big Cro-Magnon brow. And he's bald. No, wait. Let's give him he's balding, right? Everyone, yeah, this guy, yeah, that's a hot dude. See that? Making sense? It works for anime too, right? You know, you drop in the nose. We'll go to that bean mouth. Sorry. Let's see now, anime is in fact a cartoon. Everyone follow so far? That's really the basis of heads. That's it. I think that's really most of it. Now the thing is, as much I'm kind of fighting the temptation here. Probably why you heard me stumbling a little bit about 2-3 minutes ago. Is my brain was going, you know, tell them about all the pieces, but there's no time to really go over every single individual piece, which is why I said there's the little eye example is coming back to this stuff. Every one of these decorations, right? Every one of these has its own set of sub elements, right? Like a nose has the bridge, and I don't know the anatomical names, but like there's the bridge, there's the tip, there's the little bulbs on the side, your ears, there's a certain orientation of ridges, your eyebrow shape has a bunch of like sub elements, and then these elements will be branched out, right? You see that? Like it goes on forever, as much as you want to. And each one of these nodes could be its own lecture where I could talk about cartoon noses for 3 hours, right? And really get into it. What I want to say to you is don't get lost in the weeds. Make sure you start with just the basics of this. This is your bread and butter. This is, with this alone, you can make a complete, like, you know, there were those kids books, I think they were really popular in the 60s, where they were just, I think it was like, they were called like Mr. Anger and stuff, but they were just like shapes that were just representing emotions, and those books were huge. I remember seeing them in the library a lot when I was a kid and learning about how big they were. But all they were is shapes with like little dot faces. And that was enough to build a giant IP, right? That's why this stuff. Make sure you understand this. I'm gonna just there we go. Before you get into this stuff, right? Because this is the stuff that brings home the bacon, right? Because you can see over on this side, like hair alone, there are so many different ways to draw hair. And that includes like facial hair, like body hair. Like hair does a lot of weird, crazy stuff. And you could spend, you know, just a year alone studying different ways to draw hair, right? So I'm trying to like give you an idea here. Like, don't get lost in the weeds. I just want you to understand that cartooning is about starting with your basic head shape and like an eye and a mouth, and then you decorate it. And then just understand all your decorations follow the same logic of basic elements that you orient in the right, call it formula. It's like a puzzle, right? You know? For instance, I'll give you an example. I'll wrap this lecture up with this example of, here, let's take these. And let's show what happens when I break the rules. That is not right. That is wrong. I want these heads. Thank you. Okay, watch. So I'm going to take these heads, right? These bean shapes. If I, for instance, took these and put them in the wrong spot, I'll just invert his face. It's gonna look so cursed. Right? I just do this. I put this over here. Right? It just doesn't really work. See what I mean? It looks like some strange Pablo Picasso art piece. Same thing if I like put his nose down here, and I take this half the mustache, put it over here. Sunglasses. I'm just moving stuff around to show you. No, see, the thing is though, is your human brain is so clever. It can kind of see there's pieces of a face here, right? Even though if we come back to that idea of, like, I remember our stick man, right? If I take all these random objects and I just sort them, we get a person. And the same thing goes with the face, right? If I do, and I scramble them up, okay, let's make a funny one, right? And I scramble them, all the same lines. We get a face. Right? That's really the heart of what I'm trying to get across to you here. This is cartooning. Right? Understanding how you take your bare minimum of elements and orient them in a way that tells you something. And then that gives you the whole world of cartooning, whether it's Steven Universe or Dexter's Laboratory or any Hanna-Barbera cartoon. This is the core of cartooning. And that's probably enough for this lecture, because I'm sure that's already plenty to digest. Any questions? Did you have fun? Was it fun to watch cartoons happen in real time? And I will actually add a little addendum here, because I know a lot of you guys like anime. It is a cartoon under it, like it is its own style of cartoon. It's just, anime was a genre of cartoon that just became so accepted it became its own mega genre. Like if Scooby-Doo style had become ubiquitous with an entire country. It's really what anime is. But anime is a cartoon. You can like look at older animes like back in the 80s and see there's a lot more variation between the actual cartooning styles. But the genre got so big it became like a really homogenous style. Like if you look at anime in the 80s versus anime in like the 2010s, you can see the 2010 animes, every face is the same. Like we've nailed what anime is. Yeah, but like back in the 80s, exactly like Osaka just point out, the versatility is the styles are just so random because they were all just their own sort of variations of cartoons, which all hinge on all of these all of them technicals that I've talked about today. Right? And so if you want to draw specifically like modern anime, just understand there's a formula to how they arrange those fundamental elements. Right? But you can even see now, you know, like what was it? I always liked the styles of North Star, right? I think it's the North Star. Like those super jack dudes, or like or like DBZ was like really cool. They had really unique looking guys. Fist of the North Star, right? That one. Always liked how they gave them like these little soft cartoony heads with on these super jack dude bodies, and the way they drew villains was really cool. You know, they just looked so lumpy and gross. Where they kind of resembled this a lot, right? But we've kind of lost that. Not suddenly I've turned this into about cartoons. I'm going to stop recording there if anybody wants. So when anybody watches this later, they just end on this. Just remember your fundamentals. Okay. Okay.